Recording now. So, all right. So today we're going to be covering the recipe that we're doing is an Italian-inspired whole wheat pasta with some tuna, some veggies, capers, lemon juice, olive oil, lots of really delicious flavors. And the subject today is cooking healthy meals on a budget. So this meal is really inexpensive and we're using fresh ingredients too. So if you wanted to make it less expensive, you can get canned tomatoes instead of fresh, or you can do frozen spinach instead of fresh kale. There's even more ways that you can modify this. But as you see it here with the recipe provided to you, this costs $3.50 per serving. So it's really inexpensive. And that's also with tuna. So you don't have to do tuna. You could do canned beans instead. That would affect the price as well. So lots of ways to modify this to make it less expensive and to do ingredients that you prefer. So let me just go check my notes and make sure I'm not going to miss anything important before we kick it off. Let's see. Okay, so as always, like I said, we've provided the recipe, but you know, feel free to add however much salt and pepper you like. If you like extra olive oil, go for that. Make modifications however you prefer. Oh, we got another one joining us here. Okay, so Corinne is joining us now. So yeah, so I'm gonna just go through our learning objectives for the class. So as always, we've got a couple nutrition learning objectives and a couple culinary ones. So nutrition wise, we are going to be going over understanding the necessary components to construct a nutritionally complete meal. So this recipe that we have here is a nutritionally complete meal, and I'll explain as we go on what that means. And we also want to help you recognize ingredients that provide the best nutritional bang for your buck. So as I've mentioned, this is a really inexpensive recipe, but that doesn't mean we're skimping on nutrients. This is really packed with great nutrition. A couple culinary learning objectives are that we hope you will be able to understand the proper procedure for cooking pasta, and we hope that you'll understand how to make a pasta sauce without actually adding sauce. So those are two fun tricks that Chef Rahul is going to show. Oops, I've got them back in. So, all right, I'm going to kick it over to Rahul. He's going to talk about some food safety stuff and our plan of work. So I'm just going to pin his thing here. All right, Rahul, kick it off.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Rahul, as you know, and I'm going to be showing doing this demo of this cooking on budget and making a meal that is still tasty and cost you less. And it is made from very generic items that you can purchase from the grocery store, and that too on a budget at a very cheap cost. Okay, so a couple of things that we want to talk about is down the line, I'm going to explain the plan of work, how we're going to go about the recipe, the ingredients that are going to go into it, the steps, and what we're going to do about the safety. So a couple of safety items in this. Of course, tuna is a canned product, and whenever you buy a canned product, you have the normal checking on the can that is not dented or anything like that, because that can start some infection inside, some kind of botulism inside, because of when the can get dented, the pressure inside increases, and this is the perfect environment for any of the pathogens if they are there to grow. So that is one of that. Then the fresh ingredients like Parmesan cheese, which has a very low water content, still it is preferred to keep it refrigerated because preventing it from going stale. And also tomatoes and kale that we be using, and of course tuna, we have to cook it under a temperature under 40 degrees until we start cooking for the hot cooking. Okay? So how we're going to go about is, and also we look at like how long we can use this pasta once prepared, that we can cool it down as rapidly as we can, and we can store it up to a week in our refrigerator. It is edible up to a week, and then after that need to be discarded. So it's pretty simple recipe. What we're doing today is that we're making pasta, penne pasta, and I have chosen penne pasta because it is a multi-grain pasta, and Eliza will explain the nutritional benefit of it, and also the feeling of wholesome when you eat pasta, that your meal is like satisfying and it has got different colors, different taste in that, and how we can cross-utilize the stuff that is in your pantry or that is in your refrigerator. Maybe you have a bunch of asparagus that you do not want, or it is left over, you bought it extra, you have 2 peppers, so you can substitute the vegetables here and there. So in this, how we're gonna go is like we have to cook the pasta, and then we're gonna make something like a sauce, but we're not calling it a sauce. And then after that, we're gonna do the breadcrumbs. So we have 3 steps here. So what we're trying to do is like we're gonna set up a plan of work. So the plan of work will be like we are first using the ingredients to the maximum quality, and they are not getting overcooked or cooked too long ahead and any of those. And after that, we are cooking the sauce and then making the breadcrumbs because they go on top, and then finally assembling the dish. So how do we do is like we want to finish in time such that all of the ingredients for this recipe are ready at the same time. So what do is we start with the project that takes the longest time to cook, and one of them is cooking the pasta, because pasta usually takes 8 to 10 minutes to cook. And when we're cooking the pasta, a couple of things that we have to look at: either you're cooking noodles or you're cooking any kind of pasta, the amount of salt in the water and the water to the pasta ratio. So generally, if you may look at as a rule of thumb, it's up to like 4 to 5 quarts of water for a pound of pasta. Or generally you would say like if you have 1 cup of pasta, at least 5 cups of water in there. And the reason is why, because pasta, of course, pasta needs the water because it's a dry pasta, and to rehydrate itself and also cook, and also to wash away the excess of starch that is coming out of the pasta from the outer and the inner layer of pasta, which is exposed to the hot water and also subjected to your stirring and all that kind of stuff. So any of the starch that is released, the water has to be so much that the water does not get gummy. And then immediately we take out the pasta, and generally people drain it at home, rinse it off, which is okay. You can rinse it off, but in today's recipe, we're going to cook in such a way that we bring it pasta to the al dente. Al dente is like 90% cooked and 90% before it is ready to eat, because pasta should not be overcooked. What happens if you start overcooking the pasta? The size of the pasta increases because it keeps hydrating, and it keep hydrating and it become like bigger, and it is not, then it tastes like a dough. So this is what we don't want. We want the pasta to cook to al dente, so like as if you have cooked spaghetti and you're going to process it. So when you bite into it, it's like a needle point worth of raw inside, which is, remember, still carrying to continue, and it will be just perfect when you are ready to eat. Okay. So this is one of those points in cooking pasta. And al dente pasta that is served in the Italian restaurants and all over the world, that is cooked al dente a la carte. So we cook it a la carte and then toss it in the sauce and ready to go. So we can cook the pasta, but if the sauce is not ready at the same time, then pasta overcooks and we are defining the purpose, what we want to do here. So what we do, we start with the hot water and then we season the water. It is very, very important to season the water because the salt is required with the pasta. It does have salt in the recipe, but it's negligible. But when you boil it into the salted water, it absorbs some of the salt, which is very important for our palate. Of course, it is too much of sodium is not good for body, but the salt is a very, very required taste, the saltiness for our palate to feel contented and to feel the taste of all the other ingredients, and also brings out the flavor. So I have water that is going on here, and then I'm going to increase it to full heat. So it has to be, the water has to be boiling, and then I'm going to put my pasta in there.
So while we're waiting for the water to boil, I will talk about add myself in here. I'll talk about the whole wheat pasta. So we're using whole wheat penne here, as Rahul mentioned, and this is pasta. Oftentimes gets a bad rap because everybody hates carbs for some reason, but pasta, whole wheat pasta, it can be an incredibly flavorful and nutritious and satisfying part of a healthy, balanced meal. Whole wheat pasta, or any type of like whole grain pasta, has much higher protein and fiber. And because it comes from whole wheat flour, which has not been refined and processed nearly as much as white flour has, it has also a lot more micronutrients like B vitamins and folate and iron. So it's got way broader nutrient profile than just plain old white pasta. And because it's got more protein and fiber, that means it's going to keep you fuller for a longer time. So it adds to your satisfaction. And if you haven't cooked with whole wheat pasta before, just know that the consistency is a little bit different. It doesn't get quite as soft, but also like Rahul said, we are cooking it al dente because we're cooking it most of the way in the boiling water. And then we're going to add it into the pan with all the other ingredients later. And that's when you finish cooking the rest of the pasta.
So now my water is already coming to rolling boil in another few seconds. And we're going to put the pasta in there, and I will move this pot to my other stove as we are cooking. We will start on making the sauce, and then we will talk about a little bit tricks in making a very quick sauce without opening a can of tomato, or just making a red sauce pasta, or just making something full of cream with like Alfredo or something, anything different. So here is a different approach. Here we're going to cook tomatoes. We're going to cook them down first. And then after that, we're going to add capers and garlic to that, saute it still. Then after that, once it's almost like really well sauteed, we're going to add the tuna to that, saute it, and we deglaze it, and we let everything boil together so it all marries together. And we kind of stir it often so it gets a sauce consistency. And then that coats the pasta itself as if you are eating any pasta in a restaurant. So now the water is on. I will add salt to this. Salt, when we're adding the salt should taste like seawater. So it should be enough saline, because you remember some of the recipes or some when you're cooking at home, you will rinse it. Once you rinse, you lose up all the salt that is stuck to the penne or any kind of pasta that you're boiling. So here goes my pasta in here. And this would take about like 7 to 8 minutes to cook. And once I put it in there, I give it a little stir and let it come to a boil. And it's pretty simple because there should be enough water. Otherwise, the pasta will start sticking at the bottom. So you don't have to continuously stir it as if you're making like a sauce or something. You stir it once in a while, just so that the heat is distributed properly around, and it is going on. So we will see in a minute. Then when it comes up to boil, and you will see some phenomena in there. It is a scientific thing that when the pasta is boiling in the water, because all the starchiness comes into the water, and the steam is trying to escape. In this process, it starts making foam, and this foam doesn't let you see inside the pot. And what happens? The foam overflows at one point and goes into your stove or make a spill or anything. So to prevent that, it is an old technique that they use little bit of water. They put a little bit of oil, canola oil or any kind of oil on top. So what happens, as we know, that very well known thing is that the oil is lighter than water, so it always floats on top. And when it's floating on top, it increases the surface tension on top of the water, and it prevents the formation of the foam. So there will be some formation of the foam, but it will dissolve right away. It will form and break. It will not build up. So that's the thing. So if you can see my pot right now, you see that slowly the process is starting. That the very first layer of the micro first layer of the pasta is getting dissolved into the water. Because remember, pasta is made out of durum wheat, a very hard wheat, and then the dough is made super hard, and then it is extruded from the machine to make different sizes, different shapes like spaghetti, linguine, penne, macaroni, and all the kind of things. So you see the froth is forming over here, and if you can bring it up to the thing here. You can see, so
that foam on top has to do with all the starch and the surface tension the pot Rahul was saying. So he's going to do a little trick that will make the foam kind of dissipate, which is really cool.
So what happens is, like, as we'll go, so this is the very first minute of boiling the pasta, but once you are in 2 to 3 minutes on it, it increases. It increases a lot. So here you have some foam formation. And it's going to build up more, like another day. Stir it again. So remember, pasta whenever you boil pasta, it has the boiling of the pasta water has to be vigorous. It has to be vigorous because it helps two ways. When the pasta water is roll boiling, it is moving the pasta inside. So you don't have to stir it. It is getting tossed by itself. That is a big, very big advantage. And also the thing is that if you cook it on a slow heat, the pasta is going to make congeal together and it's going to make a big lump. And this is what we don't want. And it will come cook uneven because the side that will get stuck to the other pasta, there will be no heat and that side will be raw. So now you see how the froth is coming up in this here. So I said in the second or third. So this thing to reduce this froth, this is a very well-known technique. Is like you let it build a little bit and then you just go like a teaspoon worth of oil. That's it. And then this will reduce the formation of the, somehow some oil will form because oil will not be spread evenly because it's bubbling and so the bubbles are coming out. But wherever it can cover the surface area, it will not let the foam form. Okay. So now this, I'm going to move it to my other stove and we start making the most involved part of this demo is making that kind of saucy kind of thing that we're going to talk about. Okay. So I'm just going to move this.
And also we have to make the breadcrumb, the garlic breadcrumb topping. So that's something that can just kind of, you can toast the bread on the side. So Chef Rahul will show you. If you have a toaster at home or if you like to use a broiler in your oven to toast your bread, that's what we're going to do now. So the goal with this garlicky breadcrumb thing is that you're going to want the bread to get toasted nice and dark. So Rahul's going to put the bread in the broiler now. And
so again, this is the, again, like we are cooking on a budget. So whenever you buy a loaf of bread, and generally people throw the ends, but you can save the ends for like a week or so in your house, and you can have those ends like pretty much like same like anywhere else, any other bread. So this end, they're like half a slice or small slice. So we want to take that and we're going to put in our your toaster or as in my case, I'm using an oven and I'm going to let it cook till it get crisp. And so it should be so crisp that we can break it by hand. And then we're going to put in a RoboCook or a mixer, or you can crush it by hand as well. And you put a raw garlic in there, so you get a garlicky flavor, but it's not overpowering. And after that, you just season with a little bit salt and pepper, and that becomes a perfect topping to go on top. Okay, so this is going in the oven right now, and we'll put a timer on that, and I'll check it out. I'll show you how it is.
this garlicky breadcrumb topping is one of my favorite things, because if you've all been in this class before, I always talk about the different, combining different flavors and different textures and different colors. So this like darkly toasted bread with garlic, it has a dark color that you won't find elsewhere in this dish, and a crunch that you won't find elsewhere in the dish. And it's like, if you like burnt toast, I even like to burn my bread when I am making this dish, because it gives it, you know, you just sprinkle a little bit of the crispy burnt stuff on top, and it's so good. And mixed with the garlic, it's delicious.
I'm just using like a normal toaster, just a toaster.
Yep, that's perfect. That's perfect.
A couple of times, right? If you want to get a desired. So like when you toast it, a fresh toast is very pliable. You can fold it. But when you let it sit and get cooled down, then it cracks, and that's what we want. So that makes it proper breadcrumb, right? So I'm gonna.
Bread did you do?
How many pieces of bread?
Yeah.
You're doing the full 4 servings.
Yeah.
Okay.
8 pieces, like so. We're looking like like about a tablespoon worth of crumb on each to cover properly. And of course, there is going to be Parmesan cheese and a little olive oil with it, because olive oil always brings the flavor up, and it is optional thing. That's what I do. So now we're going to start with making the kind of sauce that is going to be coating on that. So here what we're doing is like we're taking a different approach. We are not going with a very chopped tomatoes, or we are not starting it with canned tomatoes or any pre-made product. So what we have done is like in summer, and of course I'm going to tell you that I'm going to start cooking, even though it is an Italian dish, but I like to start, and once the Italians do it that way, they start with a neutral oil. That could be canola oil or grapeseed oil, which does not have any taste in that. And then flash point.
Well, just so you know, I think the induction burner is causing a little bit of audio feedback. Your voice is getting a little muffled, so I might need to just explain what you're doing.
All right, so like I'll do here, I'll put it here and you can look more.
Okay, I'll explain. Our induction burner sometimes makes his voice sound a little bit muffled, but all right, he's gonna add some canola oil. And this is going on high heat at first because we want to be sure that what we put in next gets nice and charred and develops good flavor. So he's swirling that around and letting that heat up. So the first thing we're gonna add are the tomatoes. And these are cherry tomatoes that we have cut in half. We're using cherry tomatoes because these are sweeter than the average tomato, and also because they just, are a good, fun, summery thing. And they have, so much of them is covered in skin, so it adds to additional texture. So we're adding in the tomatoes, and this becomes a big part of the dish. And also, I'm not sure which one of you attended the class about the healthy eating plate, the Harvard Healthy Eating Plate. But in that class, we talked about the half of your plate being fruits and vegetables. So that's what we're always going for with our dishes. So pasta with vegetables a lot of the time is mostly pasta, but what we go for is half the dish being veggies. So that's what we're doing today. And, oh yeah, go ahead, Vicki. You have a question?
If the pasta is done, should I drain it or just leave it in the hot water or?
Yeah, good question. If your pasta is done, drain it so it doesn't sit in the water and get mushy. But you can just set it aside. It doesn't matter if it cools down because we're going to add it to the pot afterward and that'll bring the heat back up again. Good question. Yeah, keep an eye on the pasta and on your toast as well. And when your toast is done, you can set that aside too, and we'll make the breadcrumb topping after that. So Rahul's pasta is done cooking too. He's holding it up to the camera. So he's going to drain that out. So on the topic of the healthy eating plate and building a balanced meal, I wanted to go through what makes a nutritionally complete meal and how you can get that with inexpensive ingredients. So while these tomatoes cook, I'll discuss that. So a nutritionally complete meal has typically 3 to 4 food groups because that's what gives you the most wide variety of nutrients. So 3 to 4 food groups will give you that. And in this dish, we've got fruit with the tomatoes, we've got veggies with the kale, we have grain with the pasta, we have tuna, we've got fish, and we also are adding Parmesan cheese. So we've got actually 5 food groups and healthy oils. So we've got it all covered in this dish. You also want to go for colorful fruits and veggies. So if you vary the colors depending on the meal, just try to eat different colors of fruits and veggies throughout the day. But in this dish, we've got a couple different colors here. All different colors provide different micronutrients, different vitamins, different phytonutrients. We also always want to go for lean protein or protein providing healthy fats. So in this case, most of the protein in this dish is coming from the canned tuna. And that is a protein providing healthy fat. Fish is a source of unsaturated fats. And we also are choosing, even though it's canned tuna, even though it's pasta, we're choosing simple and easy ingredients that have been minimally processed. They're not being modified and having all these artificial ingredients added to them. They're just being processed enough to put them in a can or to make them into pasta form. And that's all we need. And the best way to find out how processed your food is to look at the ingredients list. And you want to look for a short list and ideally ingredients that you can pronounce and that you can identify. So now that the tomatoes are getting nice and caramelized, we're going to add the sliced garlic. How's everybody doing following along? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Oh, great. Catherine's got her tomatoes on. Perfect. Ju's cooking along, got a thumbs up. All right, now we're going to add the capers as well. So capers and garlic are going in. And capers are a great accompaniment to go with tuna. Tuna and capers are like a classic combination. So that's why we're adding them into this dish. And you really don't need a whole lot. Capers have a very strong flavor and they're very salty. So by just adding a little bit, you get a ton of flavor. So you're just gonna keep on stirring all of that around. So if any of you are not huge tuna fans, an alternative to this, if you make this another night, is to do canned beans. And because this is an Italian-ish type dish, cannellini beans, which are the white ones, those are a great option. But of course, whatever your favorite kind of bean is would be great. And that would serve as the main protein source. However, it is good to remember that whole wheat pasta, so we're using Barilla whole wheat pasta. This is a common brand. This has in, let's see the portion. In a 2-ounce serving of dried pasta, there are 9 grams of protein and 7 grams of fiber. So this is a serious nutrition packed ingredient. This pasta is not your average pasta. So your tomatoes should be breaking down a little. They start to blister or like wrinkle. The skin gets a little wrinkly. The moisture is leaving the tomatoes. So you should be seeing some like bubbly liquid on the bottom of your pan. That's because the moisture, the juice and the water in the tomato is seeping out into the pan.
Okay.
All right, so time to add the tuna if you're doing that. And this is just like albacore tuna, chunk light tuna, whatever you have. Albacore tuna is a more mild flavor generally than chunk light tuna. And if you buy it canned in water, then you know it's just fish. There's no added broth or oil or anything like that. So you just flake that apart and put it in your pasta. And we're starting to mix that all around. And you're going to start to see some like, brown stuff stuck to the bottom of the pan. So if you've attended our classes, which you have, you know that we like to deglaze the pan. So that's what Rahul is going to be doing. He's got some water. And you can really just eyeball it, how much water you think you should add. But the goal is that you add the water so that you can sort of boil up all of the stuff that's stuck to the bottom of the pan, and that flavor gets reincorporated into your dish rather than it just staying stuck to your pan and then you lose it. And adding the water is a really important part of making a sauce out of not sauce. You have all the flavor from all these ingredients, and then you just add water to help, make that flavor stay. And this is a much more natural way to create a sauce. Of course, we're calling it a sauce, but it's not, it's not like a marinara sauce or a bolognese sauce that's really going to coat every single part of your dish. But this is just what's going to make it like a good consistency. It's going to make your dish a good consistency and not be dry or anything like that. So now we've got our kale. And with the water in the pan, this is a good time to add the kale because it helps to steam the kale. And again, we're adding a good amount of kale because we like to have most of or half of the dish be vegetables. So anybody need us to slow down? Wave at me if you need me to slow down. All right. Catherine, all right?
Keeping the kale because we don't like kale.
Oh, okay, no worries, no worries. It's still really good without the kale.
Yeah, we have kale. I have kale in the freezer, but just omitting it for now.
Not a fan, no worries.
Should your pan be on like a medium heat right now with the saute?
Rahul, what heat do you have your pan on? You might be getting the toast out of the oven right now. It looks like it's still bubbling a lot, so it's probably like medium high.
Medium high.
Medium high, yeah.
Thank you.
And the kale that we're using right now is the curly kind of kale, curly kale. But there also is another kind of kale that's can sometimes be a bit more palatable for people who are not a big fan of kale, which is called Tuscan kale, also called dinosaur kale. This kind is not curly, it's just kind of bumpy, and it's a darker green. They're flatter leaves. They have like they're not as tough basically. So it's a little bit easier, more easily accepted than this kale that can be kind of tough. So Rahul, do you have your bread toasted? Awesome. Yeah, that's a good, nice dark toast on there.
So I'm just crushing the toast. It dried up. I mean, it's cooled down, and I'm just kind of crushing it because my food processor is in the dishwasher. So.
Oh yeah, that totally works. Or if you wanted to like chop it up or something, but yeah, that looks great. Yeah, and however, I mean, even if it's like kind of big pieces, like everyone loves bread with pasta, so there's nothing wrong with that. I would recommend, so when we do it in the food processor, that's when we add in like a whole clove of garlic and we just blend it all together. But with the garlic, if you just wanted to add some extra garlic to your pan right now, or if you wanted to mince it up and mix it in with the bread, however you prefer. All right, Rahul is switching to his food processor. So we're gonna leave that stuff on to simmer. I would say turn it down to medium or maybe low right now, the veggies. And he's pulling his food processor over and we're gonna make the breadcrumb topping. Right, there we go, perfect. So yeah, we're gonna put that crunchy, dark toasted bread in, preferably in a dry food processor. If it's a little bit wet, then it makes it kind of clump together. So Rahul's drying his out right now. And also, yeah, if you don't have a food processor, you can just chop this up, or you can just break it up with your fingers, whatever you prefer. So yeah, you can break up the big pieces of bread into your food processor. And this is also something that you can keep for a week. So if you don't use all of this breadcrumb topping tonight, you can keep it for a whole week and put it on top of everything you eat because it's really flavorful and really delicious. And you can also modify this as with everything. You can add more garlic, you can add some herbs, you can add salt and pepper, you can add whatever you want to this topping, however it best fits your preferred flavor profile. All right, so we're breaking up all that bread and then we're gonna put just a whole clove of garlic in there. Or if you have it already sliced up, you can put that in. But I think we're going for a whole clove. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Oh, I can kind of see it roll. Yeah, there we go. There's a garlic clove. So we'll stick it in there and then we start the food processor. So you can process this however long you want to, depending on how fine you want it to be. If you like it to be a little bit like bigger pieces, like a little chunkier, then you can just kind of pulse it until it's broken up to your liking. Or if you want it to be actually a fine breadcrumb, then you can blend it up more. So the way we have it here that Rahul's just done, it's got a little bit of big pieces and some mostly small pieces. So this is good. It's always good to have varied texture. Nothing wrong with having lots of different texture. Yeah, that looks amazing. Great. And like Rahul mentioned before, using the ends of your bread, your loaf of bread, or using some bread that has gone stale, this is the perfect thing to do with it. Stale bread does not mean it needs to be thrown away. It just means you gotta think of a different way to use it than in a sandwich. And this is a perfect way to use it. So looking back at the pan with our veggies in it and the tuna in there.
And we're not adding any extra salt or pepper into the sauce, right?
You can add it at the end.
Oh, okay.
We recommend you like taste it as is because the tuna has some salt, the capers have some salt, you know, the pasta has some salt in the water. So yeah, we recommend you taste it and add however much you think you should add based on what you prefer. But this is the time to do that. So Rahul's adding his salt and pepper right now. And we're mixing all that in. All right, so we're ready to add the pasta to this pan with all the veggies. So if your pasta has cooled down at all, that's totally fine because it's going to heat back up now. And this is why we cook al dente. I mentioned this earlier, but we cook the pasta al dente, meaning like, I don't know the exact translation, but it's not fully cooked. It's not completely fully cooked because when you add it back into this hot pan with this other liquid, you want it to finish cooking now with the other veggies. And if the pasta has already been completely saturated with water, then that doesn't allow it to soak in any of the sauce that you've just made. And if you feel like your pan has not enough liquid in it, not enough sauce, you can add a little bit more water at this point. And just be sure that you continue to let it simmer so that the pasta doesn't end up watery. You want that water to kind of cook off and end up condensing the flavor. And you should still have on the side unused Parmesan cheese, lemon juice, and your garlic breadcrumbs because we're going to be topping, and some olive oil as well, because we're going to be topping the pasta with that in the end after we're done cooking. So we're just tossing this all around. If you feel like it needs any more of anything, now's the time to add. But you'll see there's a lot of veggies in this dish for sure. It's a very veggie full pasta. That's how we want it to be. So Rahul, you want to try and see if we can hear you okay? You have anything else to add? Time to plate up? If it's time to plate up, you can turn off the induction burner and then we'll be able to hear you okay. Everybody feeling like their pasta's in good shape? Yeah? Is there anything we can help you with at this point to get you to the finish line? Everyone's good? All right, this is a super easy dish, right? It's just pretty much everything in one pan. So very easy. I'm gonna put us all on gallery view so we can see everybody here. Rahul, do you want to explain why we're saving the olive oil and the lemon juice for the garnish in the end instead of adding it?
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So when we were sauteing the tomatoes, one very important thing that you have to know is that like when we saute the tomatoes and when they are cooked, they release more lycopene that is inside it, and that is one of the unique ingredient that tomatoes have. So that get released and all get cooked together. And then also once we add tuna to it, and then we add the kale, that time we add the water to that and we stir it. So the tuna is so cooked that it breaks down and it kind of give a coating consistency to the pasta. Although it is not like a marinara sauce or Alfredo sauce, but it is still, it's like pasta which is not bland and chunks of vegetables around and the meat and what it get the protein around. Okay. So now what we do is like we add the lemon juice at the end, because lemon juice, since it is a dish with a seafood, lemon is a preferred item, and lemon is very widely used in Italian cooking, even like with chicken and like, you know, chicken piccata and all those recipes. And also for deglazing, you can use water or you can use white wine. So this is your choice, because white wine is also acidic and that helps any seafood dish or chicken dish. And so that could be one of the other variations that you can make. And feel free to add as many as vegetables that you can, because if you see that we have the recipe for 3 cups of pasta to 1 pot of tomatoes and so much kale, so that ratio has to always be alive, because that is working. Then we add the lemon juice at the end because it is more acidic. It gives the freshness to the pasta. It complements the fish. It complements the tomatoes. And also what it does is like we don't add the lemon juice and cook it, because it turns into something bitter later on once it is cooked. So that, and then it also loses its aroma, the very delicate aroma. So we're gonna add the lemon juice. So I'm gonna sprinkle it like a little bit on top here, finishing my dish, and then I'm gonna plate right now. So for plating, you may use a pasta bowl, and for that reason, we are using a plate here to show, like, so it is more spread out and not piled up. And you will see that this dish is very lot of veggies, lot of colors, garlicky, and this is your dish right here. Now we're gonna add the little bit of lemon juice on top. You can do this here. I'm showing it here, or you can do it on the pan, but that should be the last. We don't cook any further after that, okay? And then little lemon juice, and then olive oil. So olive oil is like a finishing oil, and it should not be heated up, because if you heat olive oil, it smokes, and then it is the flavor, the taste of the olive oil is gone, and it smells like something burnt. That's why olive oil is always used for finishing it, and it is up to you how much you may like, but a good teaspoon of this much portion is good. And then we finish it off with some parmesan. Again, as you may like, how much you like. And then the breadcrumbs that we made, and that adds the crunch to the whole dish, and also fortifies the flavor of garlic around it. And this is your give it a white.
Yeah, so the lemon juice, the olive oil, the breadcrumbs, and the cheese are just your garnish at the end, and you add however much you like. And this is our delicious pasta. These are, I mentioned in the beginning that these are really like Italian traditional. Oh, yay, hold on. I gotta do gallery so we can see everybody's. Yay, these look amazing. That's awesome. I love it. Yay, Catherine, that's awesome. Great job, everybody. This is great. Cool. Have you tried it yet? What do you think? Yeah, all these flavors are, you know, it's pasta, of course. So it's like an Italian inspired thing. We've used a lot of the traditional Italian flavors with this.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good, right? As Rahul mentioned in the beginning, this can keep safely in your refrigerator for a week. So whatever you have left over, you can keep it in there. But this, again, I say this every time, but it can be modified however you prefer. Whatever kind of pasta, I think I saw some different pastas being used, whatever kind of veggies you like, you know, however much garlic you like, make it however you want it to be. The goal of these classes is that you have a guideline with the recipe and with our instruction, but that you feel empowered and encouraged to make it your own, and you learn what flavors you do like and what flavors you don't like, and you try some maybe new ingredients you haven't tried before, and maybe you'll use them again. Awesome, Catherine's got it plated up. Yeah, so we hope you all have enjoyed this. This was one of our shorter classes. We're actually ending 10 minutes early. We usually go over. Anybody have any questions or suggestions for us? I mean, this is just one example of a healthy, well-balanced meal that can be made on a budget. There are so many, any kind of dried whole wheat pasta or grains. Oh, that looks so great. Wow, that's perfect. Nice job.
Eliza, would you mind just saying what order we should do the olive oil, breadcrumb, lemon, cheese?
Yeah,
finish?
I would say like olive
For
oil
anyone.
and lemon first. Either one doesn't matter. Then the breadcrumb, and then you can top with the cheese in the end so that the color stands out. But it doesn't matter as much, truthfully. I mean, the breadcrumbs, if you did the liquid over the breadcrumbs, then those would get a little bit, soggy. But it all gets soaked in anyway. So Rahul, anything else to add? Any other tips that I missed while we couldn't hear you?
I think you covered most of it. And then, as I said, the main emphasis is to cook the pasta correct, not to overcook it. And because that's the finish, that's where you get better at cooking. And you cook the pasta al dente and then you toss it, and then you finish cooking it. Add liquid as required. You think like it should not be dry. There is no recipe for it, but it's a feel that you want to have. Like you have to think how it's going to look on your fork or your spoon when you're eating it. So that's where you want it to be correctly. And feel free to increase or decrease the amount of ingredients that's going in, but the ratio of the pasta to the vegetable has to be like at least 50-50, like or even more vegetables in there. And that's what I can say. It's a very, very simple dish, and you can make many variations of it, and not opening a can to get tomatoes from a can, and not buying a ready-made sauce or a ready-made powder to make a sauce. So you can do it on your own.
Yeah, a lot of jarred tomato sauces can have like a ton of added sugar and just additional ingredients that are not necessary. So that's another great thing about using cherry tomatoes is that when the juices come out of it, it just helps you create a sauce by itself, and you don't even need jarred tomatoes. But if you wanted a less expensive option, you can get canned tomatoes that you can just get tomatoes and water, that's all that's in it. So just when you're looking to buy foods on a budget, just be sure you look at the ingredients list to see how much is added or not added to it. The goal is to not have very much stuff added to it. And there are so many opportunities to buy inexpensive ingredients that are also minimally processed. So that's the ultimate goal.
Can you freeze this?
Can you freeze it, Rahul?
You can freeze it, and it will, when you reheat it, you have to rehydrate it again, and then you have to thaw it very well, because you will not be able to go from frozen state to like thawed, ready to eat right away. You have to either thaw it in the microwave, or you thaw it like in the refrigerator for a day or something, and then you have to revive it again. That's the thing. But generally, like if you are cooking pasta you will not freeze it. That's why like pasta cooks so fast, then you can make. But if you have a portion and then you want to really save it, so you can do that. That does not affect any of the safety points or any of the other point. And with a view that like pasta is not frozen usually, but it goes contrary to some people make a lasagna and then they freeze it and then they reheat it to eat. So that's another thing. But for a small pasta, thin pasta that cooks fast, and a recipe that is as quick, so it is preferred that you cook it fresh and eat it. But freezing is always an option. Okay?
Yeah, and something to do if you did freeze it and then you reheated it like in a pan or something, you can add some more fresh tomatoes to it, or add some additional fresh ingredients to it to bring it more life, so it's not all been reheated. That makes it a little bit more appealing when sometimes frozen and then reheated things can look kind of dull. Adding some fresh ingredients helps that. All right, so I think we'll wrap it up. If anybody has any other questions you've thought of or anything, or if you feel like emailing me a photo of your dish or anything like that, I would love it. um, so yeah, thank you all so much. We appreciate you being here and cooking dinner with us, and we hope we'll see you again.
So much.
We've got some more fun stuff coming up for the summertime with nice fresh summer ingredients. So we hope we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Everybody,
Thank you.
have a good one. Enjoy your dinner.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Very delicious.
Thank you so much.